The hype train is in full effect. The murders at Karlov Manor it hasn't even left the station yet. And this has a lot to do with the economics behind Magic the Gathering. Stay tuned, guys. We have a lot to cover in today's video. When most of us think of Magic the Gathering as a card game, we can't help but also tie on to it the value that this game brings to the table and how much some of these Magic cards sell for. So what does the economic team actually bring to the table for Wizards of the Coast? Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thanks again for hanging out with me on my channel today. And a reminder before we start and get into the meat of this topic today, that if you enjoy today's content, if you want to see more Moxman, all you got to do is hit that subscribe button and turn on your notification bell. I upload at least one video every day. Now, let's see what we're talking about. We know the Murders at Karlov Manor is coming around. We've got it come at release date. We know that the sales are very low in anything sealed for this product. I've got new numbers in that still say everything's pretty much dead, nothing's coming around. Some stores are not really panicking, they're just kind of like, I wonder what's going to happen, because the singles side of everything for Murders at Karlov Manor are about 2 to 3 times what they normally would be. If they're 2 to 3 times higher on the sales side than what is expected to be open on the box side, chances are the economics of this are not going to work out the way people think. Because the economic team that's behind Magic the Gathering Wizards of the Coast and helps determine how these products are going to be perceived and to understand and innovate in advance to let the Wizards people know how much they're going to sell. Not just the marketing team, but engineering and creating the value of these products is part of the economic team's job. So what's gone wrong? Well, there's a lot to go over. So let's look at the basics here of economics, okay? Now, the basics says here, what is the basic definition of economics? Economics can be defined in a few different ways. It's the study of scarcity, the study of how people use resources and respond to incentives, or the study of decision making. It often involves topics like wealth and finance, but not always about money. And of course, Magic the Gathering, at the heart of this collectible trading card game, is it's a game. When I was buying alpha beta packs back in the day, it was, a starter deck for $8.99 Canadian. The booster packs were $2.95. And that went on for years. Until someone started selling singles, and we started seeing dual lands and stuff for $2, $3, and before you know it, MTG Finance was born. And the game has been entirely fundamentally different from its beginnings. It has changed and evolved so many times. And that's where we get to the economic team. When we take a look at the economics of the game and how much money is generated in the secondary market of this game, the economics team that works for Wizards of the Coast is looking, anticipating, forecasting what we, the players, are going to do. They look at probably YouTube content creators to see and judge the mood of the audience. They look to see how these products are being received. Yeah, they may not be able to turn on a dime. They're too big of a company now, but they are collecting and taking in that data. And they are making tweaks and adjustments behind the green curtain of the Emerald City of Oz whenever they can. But sometimes they get it right and sometimes they get it wrong, which leads me here to talk about the Murders at Karlov Manor. We know this set is not being pre-sold anywhere near even what we saw with the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, okay? It's technically lower than Ravnica Remastered at this point, okay? That's how low the sales are. Draft boxes, it's just abysmal across the thing for the draft boxes of Return to Ravnica Remastered's 4th, 5th edition, and then we go to play boosters, our first time receiving them. You think they'd really want to, spice this up, but it looks like people just don't have an interest based on the price. But again, that brings you back to the singles market, which is huge for this product. People want the cards. And of course, pre-release pricing is a joke. We know the prices always fall from anywhere from 30 to 50%, with the odd card taking the upswing and coming out ahead. I'm sure you guys have heard that line a million times, and it's true. It happens. But that economics team's job, they're supposed to be able to forecast and anticipate these types of things, and I think they got it wrong this time. I don't think the game's going to go badly. I think players are going to have fun with the cards, but I think they don't want to pay that price for the boxes. I think that mental barrier is really going to stick in there for a while for the average player who used to buy the odd box. I think you're still going to have a hard time. And that's where the economic team might get a slap on the wrist and say, dude, you said this price increase was going to work. You consulted with the oracles. You said this was all panning out. And they'll say, yeah, well, we thought the cards were going to be worth a lot more money. We thought it was going to drive players forward. We got invisible ink. We've got serialized cards. We've got unique creative artwork. We've got some crazy big beastie creatures that will tie into future sets. So the value is there. The scarcity, we've cut print runs. In their estimation, they probably think they've done everything right. Remember what we saw? Remember this one here. I'll flip it up again. Remember, scarcity, the study, all that stuff, guys. It looks like on paper they're doing everything correctly. But when you take a look at the amazing mole god, let me show you the mole god, Anzrag, the Quake mole. Okay, this thing's awesome to me. But look at the trajectory of the card. When we saw this thing in January, right, pre-release and all that, this thing was like above 30 bucks. And it's just been trending down because, remember, it's pre-release pricing. It's at 23 and it's still going and still going. Now, we all know what the card does. We know how it's going to interact with other things. But the real difference is the way they've engineered sets lately. Does that card look like much of a threat? It goes to attack. I use the Wandering Emperor and exile it. I use the Hero's Downfall. I use Farewell. Whatever you want. You find a way to stop it before it gets there. And they've given the players so many choices that cards like that used to carry a heavier weight and a heavier value are not valued the same way by players like they used to be. This isn't 1993 where a force of nature basically wrecks the world, or a Shivan dragon can come across and thump you, where a will-o'-the-wisp can hold off entire hordes of goblins because it regenerates. The values are ever changing because the power creep in the way the game is being brought forward to the players in ever-changing volumes, they haven't changed up how we feel about some of these creatures, how we feel about the cards, the spells inside the game, and we don't value them the way we did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It just changes so much. Planeswalkers aren't these be-all, end-all cards that are $70, $80 anymore. We don't look at Karn Liberated and say, oh, it's a $90, $100 card. They've reprinted it, and they've evolved the game to kill Planeswalkers relatively easy. So we don't have a value attachment. It's kind of interesting to see how they take the game and how they can get these things wrong. But that really doesn't affect our playability of the actual set. Because again, I believe this set will go off very well. I'm not big on the clue theme. We've already talked about that numerous times. Moxman wants his nachos and cheese and doesn't care about the clue theme. But I do think the cards are going to be fun. I do think the pre-releases are going to be epic. I can't wait to step into a store, support my LGS, and play. It's going to be a great time. And that's where you kind of diverge from the game versus the economics. It still happens. There are some players out there who just give me a pile of cards, I'm going to build something, we're going to play. They're few and far between now because a lot of players recognize that the game evolved from 1993, where we bought these packs for 10 bucks. For a starter deck, and somewhere between 93 to 95 they started showing up in local comic book shops and stuff as secondary market things, and that's when MTG Finance was born. That's how things came around when they started. Instead of just trading for cards, we had values associated with that card, and that's why now you'll see sets saying, well, this has invisible ink. How does that bring more value to the card? That is serialized. Why is that more valuable? Some people really will value these cards more. Some people value a foil versus a non-foil until they made too many foils, right? They changed the target. That's where things get crazy. If we're not keeping to a standardized target that everyone understands, then the economic team is actually always a little bit behind. The marketing team is a little bit behind because they don't keep their own set of rules in place for the game. Murders at Karlov Manor, if it had been 5 years ago and we had these types of creatures, can you imagine what we'd be in for right now? Can you imagine the onslaught of sales that'd be about to hit the stores? But we're not. We're in 2024. We have savvy people who understand the game better than they ever did before. people know the prices are going to drop on all these cards and they don't have to worry about it because 90 days, I know a lot of people even say 30. I always say 90 days out, the cards settle down. Release, and then 90 days later. Okay, after the pre-release, after the official release, then count out your 90 days all the way up to 120 to get a better reading on the prices, because nothing really matters until players assign the value or find some crazy way of using this stuff. And there will be those moments. And it's going to be epic. I tell you, it's going to be a fun set. But at the same time, because they're always changing the value, this economic team, their job to evaluate the value inside these products, determine which cards get put into future products, and I mean like reprints and everything in the pipeline. Remember, they probably have some storyboard in the ivory tower of 12 to 24 months out explaining everything they want to do. And the economic team is putting down marker points of where the values have to come in at a certain dollar value. And then they go back and look at the cards available and they try to shift things around and shift the market to make sure they hit the targets they're supposed to hit for Hasbro's money earnings, okay? Understand how a company works. It's not just, oh, we're going to sit down and make a great set and it's going to be awesome. That might be something that Mark Rosewater wants, but there's all these other factors that get taken in that curve it, swerve it, make it be a little bit dicey to the left or the right until you end up with something entirely different. Because they're behind the ball, they're not where they need to be, but at the same time, they affect us in the game. They affect the values of the cards and where they are going to be found. And at the same time, we have to understand what they're thinking about so we can make better choices as consumers. Because just like they're judging us and tracking us and following us, we can follow them, we can track them, and we can see the decisions they're making and how it will lead to better outcomes for you as a player buying cards on the secondary market, deciding to buy a sealed product, or waiting for a possible Amazon dump later. They've left us a lot of room now to think about what we're going to do. It's a very interesting world out there. But that economic team isn't going anywhere, and they definitely add value to the company, and they're going to continue to do so. The economics builds the hype, which gets the train underway. And although the train hasn't left the station on this product, the sealed boxes may be sitting there, but those singles are going to sell, which means sooner or later, boxes have to get opened or the prices go too high. Let's find out what's going to happen a few weeks from now. We'll keep updating as this information comes around. I hope you guys are going to have fun at the pre-release this weekend. It's going to be epic. Thanks again for hanging out with the Moxman today. I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video. And don't forget, always bring a friend to Magic. Of course, a big shout out, a thank you to the fantastic patrons of the channel. Guys, thanks again for being the loyal supporters of this channel and making this daily content possible each and every day. I literally couldn't do it without you all. So thanks again, everyone. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. What did you think was going to happen? You're here, man. Hope you brought me some nachos and cheese, turned your Necronomicon to a new page you've never read before, and hopefully your eyes don't melt when you're reading it. Here we are with coffee time. So, Murders at Karlov Manor, economic team. It's fascinating to see when something like this comes out, when they've skewed things a certain way, because they're behind, and they're a little bit slow, but now we may have a situation where the singles far outstrip what the box prices are if they go too high. Now, we're seeing a lot of declining values, but what happens if Anzarag and them are really hard to get and they run out and supply and demand don't meet? I'm just curious to see how this is going to play out, but at the same time, I understand what could happen, and it freaks me out a bit. Freaks me out. So I'll keep you guys apprised. I'll let you know what's going on. I'll be honest, it's really late. I had like a board meeting thing I had to go to, so I'm exhausted. You guys have a great one. Stay frosty. Eat some nachos and cheese. It makes you feel better. Nachos and cheese a day. Yeah, you're going to gain weight, but you'll be happy. I'm telling you, it's good food. All right, guys, I'll see you later.